Hey there, it's Alicia Malone hanging with Fandango Chief Correspondent Dave Karger, host of Fandango FrontRunners. Dave, end of season 3. What a great season.
We had such a good time doing this show. We did 15 episodes of Fandango FrontRunners, and 12 of the episodes featured people who ended up getting Oscar nominations, and we ended up having all 4 of the acting winners as guests on the show. So Eddie Redmayne, Julianne Moore, Patricia Arquette, and J.K. Simmons all did episodes, so that was a real highlight for me.
That's such a treat, and the thing that I love about Fandango FrontRunners is the way it humanises these great titans of acting. To hear someone like Reese Witherspoon talk about the start of her career, that's rare.
We tried to combine 2 different things with this show. One is to have each actor or actress tell a personal story about something that happened to them that was a pivotal moment earlier in their career. So to hear Reese Witherspoon talk about the films she didn't get before she became a star is interesting. And then we break down one scene from their performance. We hold remote controls in our hands and pause the scene and really dissect key moments. And I wanted to create an interview show that was unlike any other interview that these people did the entire season long. So that's what's fun about it.
Now, I know this might be hard to whittle down, but do you have a most surprising moment?
I was really surprised by a moment in the J.K. Simmons interview where he talks about the now very famous line, "I will bleep you like a pig," to Miles Teller, and it turns out that line was not initially in the script. It was a mistake that J.K. Simmons made, but the director, Damien Chazelle, liked it so much he kept it in. So it was interesting to hear that story, something I never knew.
He had a moment where he said, "I love this movie."
I know.
That was so nice to hear.
Yeah, and it's a movie that he made a year and a half ago and had already premiered at Sundance a year before we did the show, and yet he was still jazzed by it. I also was really intrigued by Jennifer Aniston's story of doing one of her first off-Broadway plays and spotting Al Pacino and Diane Keaton in the audience of the theater, and that really freaked her out. I thought that was a funny story because here's one of the most famous people in the world becoming intimidated by 2 other people, so that I found really interesting.
You don't hear that very often.
No. Julianne Moore really surprised me because we showed a clip from Still Alice where she starts sobbing uncontrollably, and I asked her, did you have it all mapped out in your head exactly how you were going to cry? And she said, no, I had no idea I was going to cry like that. And to me, that's the most powerful moment in her Oscar-winning performance, so I was surprised that she kind of let the moment take her where it would.
And you know the indies are my jam, so I loved hearing her talk about how indies changed the course of her career.
Yeah, and she's someone who, since all of the big independent films that made her a star came out, she's really been able to go back and forth between movies like The Hunger Games and then smaller films like Still Alice and Far From Heaven, so I think that's very impressive.
I thought Patricia Arquette, her interview was really personal. She talked about being a single mother and how that played into boyhood. Were you surprised at how candid she was?
I was. Patricia Arquette wins the award for Best Prop that she brought to the FrontRunners interview. She actually brought 2 snapshots of the moment that she delivered her first child when she was 20 years old, and she talked about how that was a really important moment where she realized acting wasn't just some hobby, it was something she had to have a good career in order to support her newborn child, so I thought that was very powerful.
Eddie Redmayne had such a great performance in Theory of Everything, but he's such a nice guy, isn't he? So humble.
Here's what I love about him. He's the very first episode that we shot this season. We shot him back in November, and I ran into him 2 months later at a party, and he said, "Hey, how'd the rest of your FrontRunners season go?" And I said, "Oh my God, do you remember?" And he wanted to know what scene Felicity Jones, his co-star, chose, so he seemed really interested in the concept of the show, so he will forever hold a special place in my heart.
And that was so great because you got to see the film early at Toronto, and you knew from then that he would be nominated.
I think each and every person who does what you and I do, as soon as we saw that performance in that movie, The Theory of Everything, you knew he was going to be a big Oscar player, and it was great to see him take it all the way to the end, and he handled the whole season just perfectly. He was so charming and never got sick of it, it seemed like. He just was a total pro the whole way through.
Now we know you're the Oscar expert, so finally, were there any big surprises from the award season?
Well, I actually thought, and I should have talked to you because you're the one that predicted Birdman all the way, I'm surprised that Boyhood didn't do better. I thought that was going to be the movie that would end up winning Best Picture. I thought Birdman was going to be too hip and cool for the Academy. I'm here to say I was wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong because I love Birdman, and I was happy to have Michael Keaton and Emma Stone both do FrontRunners episodes as well, so kudos to you for calling Birdman when all of us didn't.
Could have gone either either way.
Well, it was close, that's for sure. And what about you, Alicia? What was the biggest surprise of the award season for you?
Well, I did pretty well with my predictions, but I have to say it was pretty much a guess. I mean, it could have gone either way, Birdman or Boyhood. My surprise came in the Best Animated Feature category. I thought How to Train Your Dragon 2 would get it and not Big Hero 6.
And I still refuse to believe that the Lego Movie wasn't nominated.
I know.
I'm still very upset about that, if only because the two directors came on the show and we loved them and they were hilarious.
Well, thank you so much for all the work you did on Fandango FrontRunners. Being an Oscar nerd, I loved it.
Thank you.
Here's to more.
I sure hope so.
Yes.